This is my waste treatment bucket. It's full of iron. I add all my copper solutions to this bucket, and the copper will cement out onto those pieces of iron in this bucket. So now I'm going to take these pieces of iron that have copper all over them. I'm going to scrape the copper off into this bucket. Any pieces of iron that are left over, I'll save those. See, this copper in here is pretty much just junk. It's not worth anything. It's highly contaminated. It's been cemented out on pieces of iron, and it's basically just trash. We've got all the copper and iron pulled out of the waste treatment bucket up here. So now let's bring it down here. This is our copper in here. It's pretty much worthless. Not worth trying to melt it and reuse it because there's too much junk in there. Here's our pieces of iron that we salvaged. Going back into the bucket. And this is our acidic iron solution. Easily treated with sodium hydroxide to drop the iron out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take this bucket in and drain out the copper solution out of our stock pots. Here we go. Here's the waste treatment bucket. I've got some scraps of iron. I'll put them in here now. And this grade of iron, I get it from a local machine shop. They set it aside for me, and then I give them a few bucks for this. And I use this iron to treat my waste. These are my two stock pots. They're full of copper. My gold refining waste goes into these stock pots, and any precious metals that are in solution, mostly platinum group metals, will cement out on the copper in there. So now what we're going to do, we're going to siphon these solutions, which will just be copper, into my waste treatment bucket. Here we go. Bucket full of iron with a acidic copper solution. All the copper is going to come out of solution on the iron. We'll take this out now. We're going to bubble some air through it to create some movement. Now what we'll do is transfer these pieces of copper out of here and start a brand new stock pot today. These buckets have been in service for years, and I don't trust their integrity anymore. That's our precious metals that we're going to try to recover and refine. Now I'll transfer the contents of each of these buckets into this large beaker. Rinsing it out with distilled water. going to do is add some nitric acid, try to dissolve out all the copper that we can get out of here. Some dilute nitric acid. What I'll do is just leave this off the heat for now until it gets done reacting so that I don't experience a boil over. Got about a half a liter of nitric in there with some water. Just gonna let this react. I hope it doesn't boil over on me. That's quite a bit of acid in there. What I'm doing here is trying to remove the copper with nitric acid. A little bit of palladium, if there's any palladium in there, dissolve with the copper. And then we should be left with the insoluble solids, which should be gold, and the other platinum group metals that are not soluble in nitric acid. Let's reach in here and give this a stir. See what's going to happen. Now we'll set this up on the heat back here and start applying some gentle heat. Try to get this copper to go into solution. Most of the fumes have cleared up in there. We'll reach down in here and see what we got going on. I don't think we got any more solid pieces of copper left in here. So what we'll do is go ahead and turn the heat off now. Let this cool down, settle, and see what we got. Palladium is soluble in nitric acid. The only one of the 6 sister metals in the platinum group that is soluble in just nitric acid. Copper in solution is blue. Palladium in solution is yellow. Blue and yellow makes green. So I'm expecting some palladium in here. And there you can see that dark stain. It's a greenish color to brown, which means we've got some palladium in that solution. I've allowed the solution to cool completely. Now what we'll do is draw it off into our vacuum bottle. I added some more nitric acid to the solids in here to make sure that we've got all the copper dissolved out of there. Now we're going to filter this solution that we just pulled off with the vacuum bottle. While I'm waiting for this to filter, what I'm going to do is mix up some dimethylgloxine. I'm going to try to precipitate out the palladium out of here. I've got some hot water, and what I wanted to show, folks have been asking about these Slurpee straws, and they're an actual piece of lab equipment. Smart spatula is what it's called. and it does look just like a Slurpee straw. So that's what people have asked me, you know, did I get those out of 7-Eleven for Slurpees? And the answer is no, I bought them for the lab. All right, here we're going to put a couple of spoons of dimethylgloxime in some hot water and stir this up a little bit. Dimethylgloxime does not dissolve well in water, but we should be able to get enough of it to go into solution to do what we need to do here. I've got this all pulled through this filter now. Let's see what's in there. Pretty clean. So now what we'll do is get this funnel off the top of here. Transfer our solution into a clean beaker. Let's do one more status test just to make sure we've got some metals in solution here. You can see by that brown stain that we just got, we definitely got some metals in solution. Looks like a little bit of platinum and a little bit of palladium. Let's go ahead and put some DMG solution in here, and we should see a precipitate form. This is going to be our platinum group metals. Here we go. I've got a little bit of DMG left over. So what we'll do is add it to this container and save it for later use. Here's our DMG precipitate in the bottom of this beaker. So what we're going to do now is filter it out, collect it in a filter paper. I have a specially prepared filter paper that rides up the edges of the inside of the funnel so we can collect 100% of the precipitate. Here's our precipitate. That's going to have our precious metals in it. Let's set it over here out of the way for a second. I'm going to allow this to set for a while because we could possibly get some more precipitate coming out of solution out of here. We'll filter that and add it to the precipitate since it's in our funnel. I've allowed this to settle overnight, and there is still some precipitate down to the bottom. So we're going to filter this out of here a second time. This is our palladium salt that we precipitated with DMG. I'm going to add it to this beaker. I'm going to set this off to the back. And I've got another filter I'm going to stick in here. Alright, let's see what we're going to do here. Got a bigger flask. And what we'll do is put this funnel on this bigger flask. Get set up to refilter that solution a second time. This is my stannous chloride testing solution. It's a very sensitive test for precious metals in solution. So what we're going to do is get some of this solution on a piece of filter paper. We're going to test it and see what we got. Looks like we got just a little platinum in there maybe. Drew a sample of this green liquid that I have down here in the flask, and I put it in this small beaker, added some DMG to it, and you can see there's a little bit of precipitate on the side there. It's a red color. I'm not sure what that is. Anyway, let's get a sample of that. I put a piece of filter paper, put some stannous on it. And you can see there's still a trace of stuff left in there. Looks orange, looks like platinum, but that's not enough to try to go after. I'm going to add this filter. It's got a little bit of precipitate in it. I'm going to add that one right into this beaker as well. Now what we'll do is take our funnel. I'm going to put it in a separate flask. Now for the real treat, what we're going to do is try to capture all the solids out of our big beaker back here in this funnel. Collect that solution that's in that beaker. It's going to have some palladium in it as well. It's green. Well, here we go. It's going to add this right on in. rinse this with some water. This is the solid material that we filtered out of the flask. I'm going to add some hydrochloric acid to it. Hopefully that will dissolve that precipitate, that blue stuff. I have no clue what that blue stuff is. Now what I'll do is I'll cover this up. I'm going to set it over here on the heat. Start heating this up a little bit. I'll add the green liquid in here to the beaker. It should have some palladium in it. Go ahead and add this DMG to this solution. Precipitate out any palladium that's in this solution. Should have done this before I added the DMG. Test the status, see if we got anything in solution here. It's got a little bit of something in there. It looks mostly like platinum, but not very much. While we wait to see if anything's going to come down in this solution from the DMG, what I'll do is over here to this one, I'm going to add some nitric acid in here. And see if we can form some aqua regia and put some metals in solution from the solids that we had left over after we did the nitric acid boils. Alright, that's about 3 milliliters of nitric acid that we just added in there. If you look here, you can see there is a little bit of stuff coming out of solution in this green liquid from the nitric boil. We filtered this liquid off of these solids. So we should have just a little bit of palladium in there. I can see just a faint sign of some precipitate forming in this green beaker here. I'm not quite sure what this concoction in here is going to do. I'm going to add in just a few more milliliters of nitric acid, just a little bit, because I don't want this thing to take off and boil over on me. I've added about 9 milliliters of nitric acid to our concoction in this beaker. I've got another about 2.5 milliliters nitric acid going in right now. Let's see what this is going to do to us. Add it real slow so I don't boil it over. Still got a little left. I'm going to rinse down the sides of this with some hydrochloric acid. reach in here and get some solution on a piece of filter paper. Let's do a stannous test. I don't see a whole lot in there. Not a lot of heavy reaction there. Add a little bit more nitric acid and let this cook for a while. And if I don't get a decent amount of metals out of this, we're just going to bypass this and move on. Let's go ahead and turn the heat off on this now. Let this start cooling down. Did get a little bit of precipitate in this solution, so I'm going to add another filter here. We'll try to collect this precipitate in this filter and add it to our other collection of precipitate. Let's add this precipitate to the beaker here. Let's reach in here and get a stannous test on this liquid. See what we got going on in here. It's got a very light stain. It's got something in here, not quite sure what. This is a stannous test off of some of this green liquid. And if you look at it, it's kind of got a purple tint to it. Purple means gold. There's a little brown material down here in the bottom of this flask. Looks like it might be gold. So what we're going to do now, I think, is just go ahead and add some SMB, sodium metabisulfite, to this green liquid here. See if we can get any gold to come out of solution, if there's any in there. I don't know if there is, but we're going to try it and see what happens. Oh yeah, look down there. I'm seeing something precipitating out, definitely. Looks like gold. So I'm going to keep adding this. So we've got some gold in here. How about that? Let's get a stannous test on this stuff. And I don't see any reaction now. So I think we've got, we had golden solution in here. It's dropping it out. I've got my palladium DMG precipitate in this beaker, so we can process this. The solution up here, I'm not sure what to do with it. I don't know if there's any precious metals in there or not. I did a Stannis test and it's negative. So we'll have to figure out what we're gonna do with that. At any rate, I think what we'll do here is we'll call this video number 1 in the series here. I'll let this settle out. We'll collect that gold and get that melted into a button in part 2. And then we'll get in here and dissolve this with some aqua regia in part 2 and see if we can get some palladium out of this. So this will conclude part 1 of Stockpot 6 refining series of videos. Thank you for watching.